The accounting profession is targeting fresh graduates to join its ranks amid declining interest in the field. A study by the Institute of Singapore Chartered Accountants noted that enrolment dipped by more than 10% from 2018 to 2023. Universities will use a new industry playbook to raise awareness of accountancy and its appeal as a dynamic and viable career. The guide will be out next year. It's one way the industry is trying to ensure a pipeline of new talent. Speaking at an annual conference for accountants, Second Minister for Finance Indrani Raja says employers and universities should work together to offer enriching internships.
If you want students to join you, you've got to show them how exciting, dynamic, and purposeful your sector is. And you've got to show them the things that they have to look forward to, and you've got to dispel the dull and boring image of the past, and really show them, how transformational the work of an accountant is.
The Accounting and Corporate Regulatory Authority is also releasing another set of guidelines next year for accountants to help support climate-related disclosures. Such sustainability reporting will be mandatory for some firms in 2025. The guide is aimed at training providers who offer courses on sustainability reporting. The new resource can help trainers develop specialist programs to better address industry needs.
We are talking about sustainability reporting in a very simple form, but if this takes a life of its own and you're talking about carbon accounting, that's a completely different skill set that a lot of people today and accountants today are not familiar with. So I think there is a lot more scope for us to grow in the area, and this is really a new area that accountants can step into.
And for more, we're now joined by Koh Wee Kwang, Council Member at the Institute of Singapore Chartered Accountants, and Cherine Fok, Partner of ESG Consulting at KPMG in Singapore. Welcome to the program, both of you. Mr. Koh, new guidelines to boost the industry's appeal amid declining interest. What happens if we don't have enough newcomers joining accountancy? What are some potential impacts on the industry, businesses, and the overall economy?
I look at the overall impact as there's going to be dire overall impact in a world without accountant, and Singapore, given that Singapore is a financial hub, a leading global financial hub by itself, you need accountants as a gatekeeper. For bigger companies, included listed companies, you have layers of defense like the compliance and the internal audit. For smaller companies, essentially it's the finance team headed by the head of finance, who are essentially accountant, who sort of do the check and balances. So without these people in place, imagine the quality of numbers that are being churned out, the efficacy of the corporate governance system that are put in place. So there's going to be dire consequences if we are unable to get newcomers on board.
And Ms. Fok, the ISCA study found that job monotony and fears of AI-driven job obsolescence are among the reasons for the declining enrolment in universities. Is there any truth to these? What are your thoughts?
I think there is truth to a large extent, right? AI and I think technology in general is a very disruptive change. And it's not only a change that's impacting accountancy, but also other professional services and other kinds of, job roles or careers. To ignore the impact of AI would be, I think, remiss for us. But in a way, we have been investing, for example, KPMG has been investing more than 100 million in Singapore alone, just to make sure that our people are upskilled and also able to use AI to help them do the more monotonous stuff. And then we are able to focus our efforts on more strategic and critical thinking that is of higher quality to our clients.
So we're keeping up with the times as well by using technology. But there are also complaints of low pay, long hours and high workloads, a very stressful profession that people have an idea of. How can the industry change this and convince students that accountancy is a viable long-term career path?
I think there are times when we do have to work long hours, and that is not so different from other professions. But for us who are in the profession and we see the value of what we are doing and the impact and the trust that our clients have in us, that becomes an investment rather than an expense on ourselves, right? So the profession is changing very much as well. So we are careful to take care of work-life balance. And I think the voice from the ground is something we take seriously, thinking about, is it really just a number of hours, or is it more around what kind of hours are being put in and what are these hours used for? And are they used for high quality advice, or are they used on monotonous tasks that doesn't create much value?
And you know, these efforts are in place to dispel the perception that the job is boring or monotonous, as you said, right? But Mr. Koh, the attitudes and mindsets about accountancy aside, how much of Singapore's future growth is dependent on accountants?
Okay. What does accountant do? Now, accountant essentially act as the rear and the side mirror of a car. For a car to drive fast, you must have rear and side mirror in order to drive fast. Imagine imagine a financial hub without the ability, a financial hub or business without the ability to churn out good numbers. How then do you measure your KPIs? How then do you decide how much bonus to give to your staff? And whatever that is not measured properly cannot be done properly and cannot be ascertained properly, right? So it sort of, it will mess up the entire system by and large. Accountant task plays a very important role. Not only do we do the check and balance, like acting as a side and rear mirror, we have the ability to perform as a performance engineer, monitoring the performance and churning out proper figures for businesses to monitor to monitor.
Interesting analogy of the rear and side view mirror. Meanwhile, Ms. Fok, mandatory climate-related disclosures will be enforced next year. Can you describe to us what exactly is sustainability accounting? Because it is a new area that they may be stepping into, and some accountants today may not even be familiar with it. So how promising is a career for someone specializing in this particular area?
I think it's extremely promising. So accountant skill set, okay, the fundamental premise of our job is really to create and maintain the trust in the capital markets, all right? Because we maintain independence, we are also good with numbers, and that gives us a set of objectivity when we are looking at different trends and changes. So for climate change, we are dealing with a huge amount of complex data coming out from disparate data sources. And an accountant's role is really to make sense of all of these data together with other disciplines, so with the engineers and with the scientists, create the understanding in financial terms of what the impact of climate change would be to businesses and to us. And by quantifying that climate change, which is a non-financial exposure, right, we are able to better understand how are we going to allocate capital flows to important areas to address that.
And before we go, very quickly, Mr. Koh, what other exciting new areas are there for young accountants to pursue here?
Now, I would imagine that the accounting profession is in transition. And if I may borrow the slogan for the recent US election is MEGA, right? So we replaced American with A, is make accountancy great again. Yeah, so I think it's MEGA right now. And if you look at what are the opportunity on the horizon, there's a lot of opportunity. Sustainability is one of them. It's going to be there in the next 50 or 100 years. You will outlive me and Cherine for sure. If you look at other things, right? For risk management, for example, there is a lot of opportunity to also be a risk manager, a CRO. So it's not going to be your typical CFO type of role.
I really think it's a great slogan, but thank you so much both for joining us in the studio tonight. That was Koh Wee Kwang, ISCA Council member, and Cherine Fok, partner of ESG Consulting at KPMG in Singapore. Thank you so much.